Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Good morning.
The students are joining.
Sure.
15
Yeah.
minutes.
Yep. We'll give them 5 minutes. No problem.
Okay. Okay.
ಭಾಸ್ಕರಿಗೆ ಹೋಯ್ತು ಕೋಸ್ಟ್
ಅದೇ ಭಾಸ್ಕರ್ ಅಲ್ಲ ವಿಕಾಶ ಏನೋ ಇದೆ ಅದು ಹಿಂಗ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೆ ಅವ್ರದ್ದು ಇದು ಬಂದ್ಬಿಡ್ತಲ್ಲ ಎಸ್ ಸೌಮ್ಯಜಿತ್ ವಿಕಾಶ ಬೀಡ
ಏನೇನೋ
ಕಾದಲ್ಲ ಅದೇನೋ ಪ್ರೊನೌನ್ಸಿಯೇಟ್ ಮಾಡಕ್ಕೆ ಬೀಡರ್
Okay. Shall we get started then?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Students.
Yeah. Let them kind of join in. I think
Okay.
we can get started.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. Okay. Good morning, everyone. So hope you all are doing well. So today what we are going to do is we are going to look at some of the emerging technologies, and I'm going to share with you a few of the case studies that's relevant to the industry, and also in terms of what those latest technologies are, etc. Right? The reason is I think a lot of you folks have taken up like the course to study some technologies in depth, while you will be having those sessions, etc., and you will learn more about it. But what is important for you to understand is how that is actually applied in the market, or how you can get the real case studies in terms of AI, IoT, robotics, and blockchain, and listen to what those real case studies are. How are these technologies actually solving the problem, right, for the industries and for the clients, etc. So today we are going to kind of walk you through, or in fact, I'm going to play videos where you would be listening to these case studies, and see and understand how these are basically the real-time applications in the industry, right? So that's important. Also, the reason why I wanted to show you these videos and also to give you an overall understanding is because very soon you will be given assignments. Very soon you will be handed over certain tasks that you would need to do, and it would be important that you understand the business context. It is important that you understand the overall impact of these technologies and case studies in the industry, so that when you are working on them, you are able to then map and figure out how to present, or how to research, or how to kind of build a present and present in front of the larger audience, etc., right? So that's important. So it will give you a context in terms of how the industry expects and looks upon the case studies, etc., right? So we'll go through that. And then of course, as usual, we will always take in questions either through chat, or you can raise your hand and speak, etc., and more discussions around it. But I think what's important is to first get started with what I'm going to kind of present right now in terms of this thing, right? So let me share my screen, and then we'll play the videos. In the meantime, when you are watching the videos, you will hear some industry experts speaking in those videos, right? So you can definitely note down, you can make more notes, you can whatever the relevant pointers are, you can see, you can keep those notes, etc., so that this will help you when you are thinking of how to build a case studies, or how to make such certain presentations, right? So that's important. And of course, in between, any questions that you may have, we'll pause in between, you can ask, or you can ask the questions in the chat earlier as well, and we will kind of answer them and discuss them together, right? So okay, I'm sharing my screen. One second. Okay, is my screen visible now?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, and just let me know if the audio is visible also, right? So I'll just play.
We are today.
It is
Yes.
audible? Audible? Okay.
Audible.
All right. Okay. I will just kind of start playing.
In the middle of a technology revolution more disruptive than any other in human history.
Figuring out how to start a fire on demand and the invention of the wheel were indeed profound developments. However, these developments took centuries, if not millennia, to diffuse globally and change how people lived and worked.
Today's digital technologies are emerging at a far greater speed and with greater year-to-year impact than even other development of recent decades, such as the PC, the internet, and the mobile phone.
Artificial intelligence is clearly the most important emerging digital technology today. Focusing on its promise, Google CEO termed it more profound than electricity or fire. Looking at the risks, however, the late physicist Stephen Hawking worried that AI could spell the end of the human race. Microsoft's Bill Gates has put himself in the camp of the alarmists.
AI is not the only driver of today's digital disruption. Others include Internet of Things, robotics, and blockchain. No industry, no company, and no individual can escape the influence of these developments.
Hi, I'm Anil Gupta, Michael Dingman Chair and Professor of Strategy and Globalization at the Smith School of Business, the University of Maryland, at College Park.
And I'm Haiyan Wang, Managing Partner of the China-India Institute. To set your organization apart, it is imperative to understand the key features of emerging digital technologies and how some organizations are harnessing their power to benefit society.
This is a companion to our course on digital strategy. Here, we will examine the practical application of these technologies in various industries.
We invite you to join us on this journey.
Artificial intelligence, or AI, refers to software algorithms that attempt to replicate tasks that have historically required human intelligence. AI applications are now becoming embedded in almost all aspects of economic, social, and personal life, managing mutual funds, helping you find a better romantic partner, or even personalized counseling. Early efforts at developing AI focused largely on feeding highly codified knowledge to computers and then trying to have them mimic human decision making. For example, researchers would interview doctors, try to codify their decision making rules, and then develop expert systems embedded with the codified knowledge. This approach was not only time consuming, but also started reaching a plateau because it became evident that human decision-making rules could be codified to only a limited extent. Over the last decade, however, computer scientists have been tackling the AI problem in a fundamentally different and far more promising way. How do toddlers learn to walk? Certainly not by first learning physics and biology. Rather, they learn via trial and error. They observe adults walking, eager to mimic. They try something and fall down. They see what works and what doesn't. Learning from this ground level data, they try again, perhaps a bit differently. Eventually, they figure it out. Could machines be programmed to learn similarly? This type of machine learning is the core paradigm in AI today. Given enough data, when machines learn on their own, they can get smarter very rapidly. Importantly, they can even learn to make good decisions in areas where humans may not have any codified knowledge at all. Computer vision and natural language processing are two of the biggest areas where AI technologies are being applied today.
So I'll pause for a moment, and this is basically to give you all an understanding as to what is AI and why is it so important in today's world, right? As you heard the speaker talk about that, just like a toddler, when he or she learns by looking, by mimicking, and then kind of grows up. Similarly, AI is a technology in today's world where lot of the data that you have is broken down into the learning modules, and then as it develops more, the system actually becomes intelligent with more and more of learning, etc., right? And then the system is then also able to make those intelligent decisions. But always remember what is very critical in a case of system or machine driven modules like this, or artificial intelligence or machine learning, how the system kind of learns, or how the machine learns, is how do you use this responsibly. So even in the world of artificial intelligence and IoT and robotics and blockchain, the most important thing that you may want to remember is using this responsibly. So lot of articles and lot of information you will find when you are searching on the internet, that various companies such as Accentures of the world or IBMs of the world, they talk about responsible AI. That's important. So it's not only about AI, but how are you using AI responsibly? And I think these are the things that we need to keep in mind when we talk about an application of a particular technology, because if you're not able to implement it in a responsible fashion, then the impact on the society is not that great as you would ideally want to see, right? So just keep this in mind, that whether in your studies or as you are learning more about AI or all these different, the data and all these different technologies or all these different topics, using it responsibly is important. And you must look at this as being learning it from the very beginning itself as a responsible tech, a responsible AI, or responsible robotics, or how do you use the things responsibly in blockchain in the different industries, right? So responsibility is important. That's one of the key themes. I just wanted to kind of share my thoughts on that, right? Now let's hear how this the overall basic concept of AI can actually be used or has been used in a couple of case studies, which we will hear next in the next two sessions here, right? So let me again start playing the video so that you are able to listen to it.
Lung cancer has the highest rate of mortality among all cancers, accounting for an estimated 160,000 deaths in the United States in 2018. Early detection has been shown to reduce mortality by 20 to 43%. That's why medical guidelines endorse the use of low-dose CT imaging for lung cancer screening. Despite the guidelines, even in a rich economy such as the United States, the healthcare system suffers from challenges. Radiologists are prone to erroneous conclusions, and there is significant variability in the skill levels and findings across radiologists. Emerging economies suffer from additional problems. The shortage of trained radiologists far exceeds the shortage of imaging centers. In May 2019, scientists at Northwestern University and Google co-authored a paper in Nature Medicine detailing the results of tests with an artificial intelligence system trained to read low-dose CT images. The scientists also compared the accuracy of the AI system's diagnoses with those of 6 expert radiologists. This is a leading example of the application of AI to computer vision. In cases where they could look at both the recent scan and an earlier one, the AI system performed as well as the radiologists. However, if both looked at only the more recent scan, the AI system beat the radiologists. The AI system also produced fewer false positives, that is, incorrectly concluding the presence of cancer, as well as fewer false negatives, that is, incorrectly concluding its absence, thereby reducing unnecessary follow-up procedures and cases of missed tumor. Additionally, the system was able to pinpoint regions of the lung which carried a higher risk of malignancy. So, what were the sources of the AI system's advantages? First, the system was not bound by the constraints of the human eye, which can look at only 2D image slices on the screen. Instead, the system could look at the entire 3D image in one go. In fact, because the system could look at both the recent and the earlier 3D images simultaneously, it really had 4D vision with time as the fourth dimension. Second, because of its far greater computational power, the system could analyze each pixel, as well as various combinations of pixels, with far greater granularity than human radiologists could. Third, the system relied on deep learning, a more recent branch of AI. In deep learning, the AI is trained on a subset of cases where it is given anonymized scans and is told only whether or not later tests would reveal the presence or absence of cancer. With no prior medical expertise coded in, the system had to learn on its own how to make better predictions about the presence or absence of cancer through a rapid-fire sequence of trials and errors. This is a process very much akin to how a child learns how to crawl, stand up, walk, and run. This blank slate approach made the system open to the discovery of novel signals of cancer in the CT scans. As a result, the AI system can now begin to teach human radiologists an interesting case of reverse learning. The utility of this type of system should be even greater in emerging economies, as it can help fill in the gap caused by the scarcity of trained radiologists.
Okay, I'll pause for a moment, right? So the case study which you heard was a real-time example of how a technology like AI can be used in the healthcare sector. Now, diagnosing lung cancer is an example, obviously, like, how medical science is evolving and how technologies can be used in the healthcare sector, right? Similarly, we will also see how technologies can be used in other sectors also. But what is important is you must also understand where are or which sectors are these technologies being used more and more and more, right? The reason for sharing this is you must also understand that if you want to take up any project or if you want to work in your career in certain industries or in certain organizations, then what are the options you have to choose from the sector's point of view, so that you know that whatever you have studied you are also able to apply, right? Now let's say, for example, you may have studied AI in detail, you may have studied IoT, etc., in detail, but you do not know where to apply this or which industry this will be helpful. I think that is the reason why these case studies are important, because you should know that there are certain industries like healthcare, etc., where these technologies can really be implemented quite more, and it is evolving. Every day, I think we hear some new innovation that is coming up on all of these applications, right? So healthcare is a pretty critical kind of domain in today's world, and the more responsibly we are able to use technology such as AI, etc., is only going to kind of help and scale further. So for you to understand that what are the opportunities or where can you apply this knowledge, healthcare is one such segment. We will see more, right? Also, what's important is as you are seeing and hearing these case studies, etc., when you are going to be kind of working on certain case studies, or when you are going to be working on certain projects, you should also understand what are the few key questions or few answers you need to kind of solve. One is, of course, you need to solve the business problem. If you see the case study of the lung cancer, here the author talks about how that problem was solved and what was the effect or importance that the medical companies or the institutions or the organizations can learn. For example, reverse learning or deep learning, so these were a few of the terms that was used. So which means there is a good business case. How do you then also take it to kind of market it more, right? While one is knowing the technology, learning and being a subject matter expertise, the second is actually implementing it and solving it for a business, or solving it for an organization, or creating or marketing or promoting the knowledge, right, with the relevant audiences to understand how these could be used. For example, think of a hospital, let's say, and I'll take an example of, let's say, for example, Manipal Hospital. I think we all are familiar with the term, so with the name, right? It's there in Bangalore. So tomorrow, if Manipal Hospital wants to educate the larger group of people, wants to educate the larger, masses in terms of the opportunities or the options of healthcare that Manipal Hospital kind of, offers to the users, they have to market it. They have to share the knowledge. They have to share the content. Otherwise, how would people know what's available? So using cases like this, then Manipal Hospital would be, or the team at Manipal Hospital would be actually doing a sales and marketing outreach, right? So it is also important to understand that it's how a particular technology is going to be utilized in a particular use cases and then communicated. So that communication is also important. So tomorrow, if you don't know what's possible, then you would not probably even go to a Manipal Hospital. So the Manipal Hospital's marketing team then is definitely going to use cases like this from the industry and share and promote and market across channels so that it reaches out to users like us, and we know that what's possible, what's not possible, right? So that's something which I wanted to bring in here in this discussion, because as students and as future folks who will be working on different projects, etc., I think it's important to understand the business implications of the cases. Very, very critical. It's not only about the theory, it's also about how do you practically apply it, and that's the example, right? So now let's hear the next one, which is more in terms of the market knowledge for investors, right? Let's see how AI as a technology can actually make that impact. Let's hear what this use case is, right?
Rise of emerging markets has made it essential for investors on Wall Street and other financial centers to develop a deep understanding of the opportunities and risks across the entire world, not just in the US, Europe, and Japan. How likely are lawmakers in Brazil to pass a controversial bill to overhaul the pension system? What are the odds of India's ruling party winning upcoming local elections in the biggest state? Should we bet on the Nigerian president liberalizing the agricultural sector? Trying to answer these questions by reading online English versions of each country's main newspapers could never give any investor any type of information or analysis advantage, simply because doing so merely scratches the surface of available and relevant information. So what could the savvy investor do? The answer lies in using the power of AI to browse through, digest, and synthesize millions of bits of information, not just in newspapers, but also on TV broadcasts, web pages, and social media feeds such as Twitter, much of it in local languages. Startups such as Akira in London and Sigmoidal in New York do exactly this and have found ready clients around the world. In the case of the Brazilian pension overhaul bill, Akira's AI system kept a close watch on every one of the 513 legislators. A few weeks before the bill's passage in July 2019, the AI system was able to predict the outcome almost to the letter, giving its hedge fund clients significant early mover advantage regarding movements in Brazil's currency. So, how does the AI system do this? The starting point is that computers can access far more data points, including social media feeds, simultaneously than humans ever could. Further, AI-driven translation systems are now able to translate all of these into English with almost the same degree of accuracy as that of human translators. The biggest value of AI algorithms, however, lies in making sense of what all of this information means. Some of the early work in this area began with scientists training algorithms to understand the content of first sentences and then paragraphs. For example, the AI would be given thousands of paragraphs, as well as questions such as, does John like Jane? And the right as well as wrong answers. Through a process of trial and error learning, the AI would eventually become smart enough to understand the rules of grammar and make sense of new, previously unseen paragraphs. Over time, scientists in the field of natural language processing have been able to develop AI systems that can understand movie scripts, summarize CEOs' earnings calls, and even write drafts of newspaper articles by first digesting what's being said around the world on a particular issue. The leap from these capabilities to the AI systems of Arquera and Sigmoido was not particularly dramatic. Given the perpetual arms race among those who develop these technologies, as well as those who use them, it's a safe bet that natural language processing will become far smarter and far more widely used within just the next 3 to 5 years. The Internet of
Okay, so I'll pause here now for a moment, right? So we learned about AI, and we also learned about a couple of two case studies. One was in the healthcare sector, one was more in terms of the application in emerging market. Like for example, markets like the example taken here was Brazil, right? And how AI as a technology was able to translate the languages, and then and from what are the different sources they would translate the languages from. How would AI actually help that to make certain informed decisions, right? So that these were the two examples. So I wanted to check with the group if there is any questions you have at this point in time before we move on to the next topic of Internet of Things and the applications of IoT, right? So any questions that you have regarding what you heard, you can either ask or you can just post in the chat as well, and we'll take it up from there. I'll give it a minute for you to post your questions or ask any questions on AI and the applications. Anything? Any questions? Okay, if there aren't any questions, then we will move on to the next section of learning, that is the Internet of Things, right? This is another technology which is extremely important, because ultimately the concept of Internet of Things is basically brings together all different technologies and how it all works simultaneously in an ecosystem, right? So that's ecosystem is kind of really important. So what could be these examples? Let's hear from the experts, right? So that's the next kind of topic. So I'll play the video. And in the meanwhile, if you have any questions, please post it in the chat. We'll pick it up and then we'll answer.
of Things, IoT, refers to a system of objects, as well as even people and animals, who carry unique identifiers and can transfer data over the internet without any human-to-human or human-to-computer interaction. We can think of the IoT as an internet-based network, where the connected things are nodes of the network. A sensor embedded in an aircraft engine is an IoT node. So is an internet-connected doorbell, a camera, a smartphone, or a driverless car. Even a bird, a cow, or a whale, when tagged with an internet-connected sensor, becomes a node in the IoT network. This would be true also of any person who gets a pacemaker or a chip implanted in his or her body, which can then transfer data over the internet. IoT sensors are spreading like wildfire and have already been put to use in a wide range of applications. from homes to hospitals to factories to farm machinery and even entire cities. According to some estimates, by the end of 2020, there would be over 10 billion IoT devices worldwide.
Oil and gas is one of the largest industries in the world, accounting for revenues exceeding $2 trillion. Given some of the industry's unique characteristics, oil and gas companies have been among the earliest and most enthusiastic adopters of IoT technology. Let's see why. First, oil, gas, and petrochemicals are commodities. Every company, no matter how large, is at the mercy of market prices. Thus, operational efficiency is the primary determinant of profit margins. Second, unlike other process industries such as steel or paper, accidents in oil and gas can be not only deadly but extremely expensive in terms of cleanup operations and lost production. Third, many segments of the industry, for example, oil drilling and refining, can have significant and very costly environmental consequences, thereby requiring extreme preventive action. Here are some of the ways in which oil and gas companies use IoT technology to address the imperatives of operational efficiency, accident prevention, and environmental sustainability. A large oil and gas company can have over 50,000 wells and multiple pieces of equipment at each well. The failure of a single machine at a well can lead to lost production while also falling foul of regulations. Internet-connected sensors can give early warning of impending failures or immediate alerts in case of actual failures, something that would be impossible to do with in-person field inspections. Aggregated over all wells, data from sensors can also help managers learn why some wells perform better than others so that the best practices can be diffused company-wide, resulting in improved efficiency. In refining operations, IoT sensors can monitor emissions, waste, and environmental conditions on a 24/7 basis. This approach not only reduces the cost of on-site inspections, but is much more thorough. It also enables the company to be highly responsive, thereby reducing penalties in the event of a mishap. IoT sensors embedded in pipelines, trucks, tanks, and in the case of home heating oil, even customers' homes, can enable the company to manage its entire supply chain far more efficiently and with greater responsiveness to fluctuations in market demand. Industry insiders estimate that IoT implementation is already adding several $billion in economic value to the oil and gas industry. The global demand for IoT sensors and related software and services for this industry is predicted to exceed $30 billion in 2025. Similar implementations of IoT are underway in other industries, from steel mills to forestry and paper to auto factories. Ongoing developments, such as cheaper, smaller, and more powerful sensors that are connected to the internet via 5G and can leverage the growing power of data analytics and AI, seem set to make IoT as ubiquitous as the clothes we wear or the air we breathe.
Okay, so I'll pause for a moment here again before we play the next video. So in the case study, we saw that one example of one industry where IoT has been really, really embraced with both the arms, and that's the oil and the gas industry, right? And we also heard the reasons of why this was embraced, because the nature of the industry is such that all the oil companies or all the the organizations in the world, which is into this industry, a lot of those countries in the Middle East, a lot of these countries in the lot of these companies in the US. So everybody who is involved in kind of an oil and natural gas, right? Even for that matter, even Indian companies like Indian Oil and BPCL, etc., they require the support of technology a lot because it's all connected. And as you heard, the fundamental concept of IoT is about internet and nodes. It's drawing five different or hundreds different of points, and each of the points getting connected, right? That's the node. And how do you kind of then transfer information using internet and technology, right? So that's the core concept. So remember that one of the critical applications of oil of IoT is in the oil and in the energy sector, as they call it, right? And oil and gas is a part of that. So a lot of the technology companies, such as, for example, Accentures of the world, may have relevant positions or may have relevant roles that require specialists such as yourselves when you kind of learn these technologies to actually work with the clients in the specific sectors. So for example, the way a company like Accenture is set up is it has specific teams who deliver services and offer consulting services to the clients who are in a particular sector. So they have clients in the sectors of oil and gas, they have clients in the other sectors. But if there's a requirement from a client who is present in the oil and gas sector on consulting, then Accenture would be requiring the people to kind of support them. Who would be those people? These people would be people like you, who are studying this, or who are getting deep insights into what an IoT is, and you are also understanding what these implications in the practical world can be. So then you become a candidate who can kind of work for a company like Accenture and then actually work with the clients as well, right? So I'm also trying to kind of give you examples as to where these possibly can help in your overall choice and selection of where you're working or what kind of roles you would want to work, etc., given the implications of a certain technology in the business context, right? So that was for IoT and the oil and gas industry. Now let's hear how IoT can be used in healthcare. Healthcare is another sector. Now we learned that AI, the application of AI in the healthcare sector. Now we'll see how IoT is helping in healthcare sector, and then you will also understand that certain sectors like healthcare, you actually have much more options. You have multiple technologies that can be applied in a sector like healthcare, right? So which means opportunities are a lot over there, right? So let's hear what we have in terms of the example from a healthcare.
Most countries, rich or poor, are groaning under the weight of rising healthcare costs. In rich countries, these costs account for 12% of GDP, with US as an extreme outlier at 18%. Not surprisingly, hospitals as well as individuals are becoming enthusiastic adopters of IoT technology. It helps improve quality of care without much, if any, increase in costs. Let's look at some key examples. Smartphone-like devices can now take photos of wounds and transmit them to the patient's medical file. These images help nurses assess the severity of a wound and track how it's healing over time. Smart pacemakers now come with the ability to communicate with external monitors. When a patient with such a pacemaker implanted in his or her heart visits the doctor can download information about the behavior of the heart, as well as whether or not the device has sufficient battery power. A growing number of IV machines are embedded with sensors that can be programmed to deliver the right amount of medication at the right time. In the case of pain medication, the patient could also be given a wristband which can communicate wirelessly with the IV machine. When the patient needs to reduce the pain, he or she can use the wristband to trigger the machine to deliver medication. The system is designed to prevent overdosing. Mount Sinai Hospital in New York City has installed sensors in hospital beds that let the staff know exactly when the bed has become free, is ready for reuse, and its location. This simple move has reduced wait times by several hours for half of the hospital's emergency patients. Imaging machines, such as for taking X-rays, CT scans, and MRI images, routinely come embedded with sensors. These play several roles. They monitor the performance of the machine in terms of how well it did the task it was designed to do. They issue alerts if during the machine's use certain thresholds get exceeded. And they trigger calls for preventive maintenance so that unwarranted downtime is reduced or eliminated. As sensors become more powerful and cheaper, they are bound to become even more pervasive throughout the healthcare system. Robotics refers to the technology.
Okay, I'll pause for a moment again here, right? So we saw, like, the implication of IoT on the healthcare, right? And as you heard that the author here, when she was speaking, she also talked a lot about the use cases in terms of what could be the few use cases that IoT as a technology has been used in the healthcare industry. For example, sensors or pacemakers, or how typically the doctors are able to, or medical practitioners are able to gather the information of the patient and then recommend, what kind of medical doses that should be administered. So the multiple such examples and use cases as you saw. And in the end, you also saw what was probably one of the cost and the benefit and the business value. So as more of these the technologies gets adopted, we will obviously start getting more economies of scale, wherein the cost is going to be reduced and more adaptability and more usability and more acceptance of these or implementation of these would happen, right? So that's from the economic angle as well. So just wanted to share some thoughts around that as well. Any questions so far? We have covered two topics, AI and Internet of Things, and we have seen like the practical applications of these. So so any questions till now before we move on to the next, that is robotics, which is also pretty interesting. And even in robotics, you will see how it's used in let's say healthcare sector, or even in retail for that matter. We'll soon see that. But then before that, if there is any questions at all. Okay, if not, then we'll move on to the next use cases of how these are. That is, the robotics is the next use case. Okay.
Robotics refers to the technology behind robots, that is, machines that are programmable by a computer and which can carry out a complex series of actions automatically. Technically, the term robot can be applied to physical machines such as a drone, or purely digital ones, such as a voice assistant on a smartphone. In common usage, however, we associate the term robot with physical machines and the shorter term bot with purely digital ones. In this course, we will focus only on physical robots. Robots are evolving rapidly in terms of both their physical dexterity as well as intelligence. This evolution is being propelled by a combination of developments in both hardware technology as well as artificial intelligence. Robots can vary widely in terms of the degree of their autonomy. Some of the earliest robots in factories, such as an automotive assembly plant, were not capable of much, if any, autonomy. They were programmed to perform a series of tasks in a well-defined pattern. Without reprogramming, they could not deviate from this pattern. In contrast, a car running in the autopilot mode today is capable of a high degree of autonomy, at least on highways. Scientists and engineers are pushing robotics technology along a number of important dimensions. They are improving the physical dexterity of robots so they can mimic the human hand, running, jumping, climbing stairs, and so forth. They are making them much smaller so that they can go inside the human body to perform surgery or act as an army of artificial insects during warfare. They are experimenting with soft robots that are powered by chemical reactions in the robot's brain, thereby obviating the need for electricity. Most importantly of all, robots are becoming more intelligent and thus more autonomous.
We believe that the Da Vinci system is a forerunner of how a majority of complex surgeries will be done over the coming decade or two, at least in the developed economies. With aging populations, the market size will grow faster than the population. As new entrants go after this opportunity, prices are bound to drop significantly. The Da Vinci surgical system is the world's most advanced robotic system for minimally invasive surgeries. The Da Vinci system is particularly well suited for surgeries that require a very high degree of precision, dexterity, and control. In a sense, this robotic system expands the surgeon's capabilities. There are benefits for the patient too, who undergoes only a 1 to 2 centimeter long incision, resulting in much less trauma, much faster healing, and shorter hospital stays as compared with open surgeries. These benefits come with very high upfront investment by the hospital. Each Da Vinci system costs over $2 million. There are also sizable annual maintenance fees. It also requires significant training for the surgeon in terms of how to use the system. As a result, such systems are economically viable primarily for those centers that perform a large number of surgeries each year. The system is used for a wide range of surgeries, including cardiac, urologic, gynecologic, pediatric, as well as general surgery. Estimates suggest that 3/4 of all prostate cancer surgeries in the United States currently use Da Vinci robots. Let's look at some details of how the Da Vinci system works. The most popular model, Da Vinci Si, consists of 2 separate but connected sections. One section is a robotic tower with 4 arms. 3 of these hold various surgical instruments. The 4th one holds 3D high-definition cameras. The second section is a console where the surgeon sits and operates the robot's arms while looking through 2 stereoscopic monitors. Additional video screens enable other members of the surgical team to observe what the surgeon sees. In manipulating the robot's arms, the console permits the surgeon to exercise fingertip-level precision over the surgical instruments.
Okay, I'll pause Is the recording stopped right now? Phoenix team? Okay, got it. All right. So we saw the example of how robotics can be an application of robotics in the healthcare sector again in terms of surgery, right? While we understood how that's performed, etc. But I think at the beginning of the video, the author talks about what are the cost implications, what are the possibilities of or economic or commercial possibilities or viability of adopting or embracing such technologies, right? So that's also important point to keep in mind that, say, for example, tomorrow, you actually get to work or get an opportunity to work for some organizations which is in the healthcare sector, and they may be wanting some procurement or procuring these machines, etc. So you need to also understand the business implications in terms of if you have to procure, then what's going to be the cost, or how many such surgeries are that are happening in a particular hospital. So is there an economic feasibility or is there an economic viability? So it's also important to understand that that angle of things as well, right? So and hence this video really nicely brought across that how these are getting used in the different sectors, or the different applications in the healthcare sector, and then what could be the economic costs, etc. as well, right? So I think that's important to keep in mind too. Okay. Now let's look at an example of how this robotics can be used in, let's say, a retail, that is maybe in a supermarket, right? So let's see how this can be used in this sector, application of robotics in the retail sector.
Within a decade after Sam Walton founded Walmart in 1962, the company started acquiring a well-deserved reputation as the most responsive and most efficient retailer in the United States. Walmart's larger and more tailored product mix, as well as lower prices, were the most direct cause behind the decimation of old stalwarts such as Sears, Montgomery Ward, and Kmart. Over the last 2 decades, however, Amazon has proved to be not just Walmart's match, but by doing away with the cost of physical stores altogether, even more efficient. After initial struggles in figuring out how to fight back, Walmart has now emerged as perhaps the most nimble traditional retailer in the world. There are 2 major parts to Walmart's strategy for competing with Amazon. After acquiring Jet.com in the US, Flipkart in India, as well as other e-tailers, it is going head-to-head against Amazon in online commerce. Equally importantly, Walmart is turning to technology to make its physical stores even more efficient. An army of robots is playing an important role in this effort. Having learned from several well-designed experiments, Walmart is now in the process of deploying thousands of robots in a large number of its over 11,000 stores. Some of these robots perform backroom operations, such as unloading trucks and scanning boxes. This is where Walmart made its early moves in bringing robots to the stores. Others are pickup towers, where consumers can pick up goods ordered online. More recently, however, robots have started roaming the aisles, scrubbing floors, or tracking shelf inventory. The robots that track shelf inventory have proved to be particularly interesting. They're made by Bossa Nova Robotics, a tech startup founded by Carnegie Mellon engineers in Pittsburgh. Their job is to roam the aisles, tracking shelf inventory and conveying that information to people in the store's backroom on a real-time basis, a significantly faster and more subtle approach than relying on human workers. Some estimates suggest that empty shelves can cost a retailer as much as 1% of revenue, a huge amount in an industry that operates on razor-thin margins. Should these robots appear humanoid? The companies answer no. They need to look industrial. You don't want to scare people. Unlike floor scrubbers, shelf-tracking robots need to be tall enough to scan all of the shelves from top to bottom. As a result, would they prove intimidating to shoppers? Bossa Nova's solution: make the main unit short and squat, but attach a tall arm with cameras to it. How would people react to them? Bossa Nova, as well as Walmart, discovered that after initial curiosity, customers basically ignored them. What about store associates? Since it's people who must fill the empty shelves, associates started seeing them largely as co-workers and have even given them human names. The biggest surprise? Teenage customers. They tend to be naughty. Some try to push them around. Others may try to sit on them. Bossa Nova has had to make sure that the robots can withstand possible abuse without breaking down or hurting the naughty shoppers. There are some other questions to which the company is still in the process of figuring out their best answers. Should the robots have turn signals? Should they beep if they want to reverse? Should these features follow the design of cars or be totally different? As robots and humans start to cohabit the same spaces and operate in ever closer proximity, questions such as these are beginning to pose important questions regarding the design of robots.
Okay, so I'll pause for some time, and then we'll talk about this robotics. So we saw an example of Walmart, right? And we heard, like, how Walmart took on is taking on Amazon as a head-on competition in the retail e-commerce space, right? So, and which is very exciting to see, because these are the two big giants in the world. What will be also interesting for all of you to know is this entire example of Walmart adopting new technology, Walmart acquiring few of the Indian companies like Flipkart, etc. It's all happening from Bangalore, right? So the Walmart office, or the Walmart as an organization in Bangalore, actually has a lot of these roles, this technology roles, which they hire for to actually support what you just heard. So which also means that this is happening right out of India, right out of the city that we all are here for, right? So you can see the adaptability and of all these technologies, the practices of these technologies, the job opportunities, the implications in a particular sector. It's all global. It's not restricted to just one particular sector, etc. And the Walmart is a very good example where Walmart as an organization have a huge setup in Bangalore, and this is where they are hiring a lot of these folks to work on all of these applications, which is changing the world altogether, right? So just wanted to leave you with that thought as well, right? Now we have the last topic in this section, which is blockchain. And we'll see how blockchain is also such an important technology that is getting adopted in the different industries, right? So let's hear what the authors have to say about it.
The blockchain technology achieved initial popularity as a mechanism to record Bitcoin transactions in a digital ledger. Since then, it has also found use in managing supply chains, banking, insurance, and other applications. The term blockchain refers to a chain of blocks. Think of them as digital records that are chronologically linked to each other cryptographically, like the pages in a book. Each block comes after a previous one. Each block contains some information. For example, a transaction between parties A and B, a medical record, or a land title. It also includes a unique encrypted identifier, a timestamp about when it was created, as well as the unique identifier of an earlier block where some change to the earlier block, such as change in the ownership of the particular land, resulted in the creation of the current block. The entire chain is copied and stored in a decentralized, distributed, and often public network of computers. The information in an earlier block cannot be changed without changing the contents of all blocks that came after it, and a majority consensus of the computers where copies of the blockchain are stored. This makes tampering any record almost impossible. Adding a new block also requires majority consensus of the computers in the network. The decentralized, distributed, chronological, and majority consensus features of a blockchain, coupled with reliance on cryptography, make it virtually immune to hacking, fraud, or the destruction of any centralized server. This is why blockchains are viewed as a highly trusted method for storing records.
Leaving aside bitcoins, the diamond industry has become an early and an enthusiastic adopter of the blockchain technology. Let's see why. The industry has been plagued by two problems. One, blood or conflict diamonds mined in war zones and sold to finance warlords and their armies. Two, synthetic diamonds passed on as natural ones. Consumers are increasingly unwilling to buy such diamonds. As a result, companies which can prove that their diamonds are free from these problems can enjoy a competitive advantage. In 2003, the United Nations General Assembly established the Kimberley Process Certification Scheme, KPCS, to increase transparency by tracking the movement of diamonds and keep conflict diamonds out of the market. The KPCS mechanism required participants to monitor shipments of rough diamonds and certify them as conflict-free. Unfortunately, the KPCS mechanism proved to be a failure. It relied on self-regulation and self-certification. According to many observers, instead of solving the problem, it degenerated into a tool for false accreditation schemes. There was no way to verify the stated provenance of any diamond. To solve the endemic problem, in May 2015, Lian Kemp, an Australian entrepreneur, pioneered Everledger, a global digital registry for diamonds powered by an IBM blockchain platform. Kemp's insight? Blockchain can create an immutable ledger to record the entire history of a particular diamond and eliminate the possibility of document forging. Over time, many of the major players in the diamond industry, including miners such as the Russian company Alrosa and Hong Kong-based retailer Chow Tai Fook, have joined the Everledger project. Chow Tai Fook also created the T-mark line, in which the diamonds are inscribed with traceable codes so that their origin could be checked. Everledger is not the only blockchain platform in the diamond industry. In January 2018, the Beers Group, one of the industry's biggest players, launched a tracker with the stated goal of improving the transparency of the diamond value chain by creating permanent digital records for every diamond registered on the platform. Other blockchain-based platforms to track diamonds continue to emerge. Over the past year, Russia's Ministry of Education and Science launched its own blockchain solution for responsible diamond trade. A similar platform called Clara has emerged from Canada. It's clear that the blockchain technology is now becoming an integral part of the diamond industry.
The global shipping industry has historically been plagued with a morass of complex documentation among a large number of parties, including customs and border control authorities who must know the origins, destinations, and contents of incoming and outgoing containers. These challenges, the need for trust in the records, the large number of organizations involved, and the complex documentation make blockchain an excellent technology solution. Take, for example, the shipment of flowers from a grower in Kenya to an importer in the Netherlands. The parties involved would include a freight forwarder who puts flowers from multiple growers into a container, customs and border protection authorities, multiple shipping lines, trucking companies, warehouses, and terminal operators. The chain could easily involve 30 different organizations and require 200 separate documents. The shipping industry has relied on electronic data interchange, or EDI, technology for several decades. EDI covers a good chunk, though not all, of global shipping. It suffers from some significant weaknesses. The document-based messages are exchanged linearly among companies, preventing end-to-end transparency from the producer to the end customer. Also, EDI messages are sent in batch format rather than real time. Existing processes, a combination of paper and EDI based, have proven to be error-prone and wasteful. The morass of documentation is estimated to cost as much as 20% of the cost of physical shipment. Because of needed checks by customs and border protection authorities, goods often spend more time in ports than on the ocean. Given the lack of complete transparency, there is also significant fraud, costing shippers an estimated $600 billion a year worldwide. Determined to find a better solution, in 2014, Maersk, the world's largest container and supply vessel operator, initiated discussions with IBM to explore the potential of blockchain technology for the maritime shipping industry. Blockchain could serve as a universal ledger that would be visible simultaneously to all parties and completely tamper-proof. By serving as a single source of truth, a blockchain could give the needed assurance to shippers, customers, as well as government authorities. In 2016, Maersk and IBM initiated pilot tests of a blockchain solution with DuPont, Dow Chemical, and Tetra Pak. The solution included the use of permissioned blockchains, whereby participants would need permission to participate in a particular blockchain. This approach was important to ensure that while companies would have access to the records that pertain to their shipments, they would not have any access to information about competitors. In March 2017, Maersk and IBM announced their plan to create a global trade digitization platform for the entire shipping industry, rather than privately just for Maersk. It would be run as a separate entity and would be neutral to all parties. August 2018 saw the birth of TradeLens, the global digital platform created by the collaboration between these two companies. With over 100 major organizations, including companies as well as government agencies, already committed as partners, TradeLens has emerged as a long sought answer to the maritime shipping industry's challenges.
Okay. So I stopped sharing, and as you all heard, the implication of and the application of blockchain in the particular industries, right? And how the technology is only evolving and evolving and evolving, right? So very, very critical, from a point of view of understanding what are these emerging technologies and where are the opportunities that lies for all of you to really pick up projects or work or from a career standpoint as well, and the options available in the industry, right? So these examples, what we saw, across all the four topics, right? That is your IoT, AI, robotics, and blockchain, should give you an idea in terms of what are the opportunities or which are the sectors and what kind of real-time examples that you can have, right? And hence this also gives you an idea in terms of how to prepare for these scenarios and these situations and opportunities as well, right? So that was the intent of sharing these videos. That was the intent of uh, you all listening to the experts in the industry actually speak, so that you get a first-hand information in terms of what possibilities exist, right? So that's important. Now coming to this class, and I know we have covered quite a bit of topics in the last 3 sessions, etc. Before I move on to anything else or talk about the assignments, etc., or how do we want to do the next, I wanted to hear from you if there is any questions you may have so far in what you have heard in today's class, before I talk about something else. Any questions or any comments or any you know any thoughts around what this is? Yeah.
Very good.
Anything at all, anything around what you are learning right now, or where do you see the application of this, or any questions around careers, etc., where you will if you have any questions in terms of where can you apply all these things that. Okay. So if there are no questions, then let me tell you what we would probably have in the next few classes. I have the groups that you are distributed into as a part of this program. And what I will do is I will assign certain case studies. I will assign certain topics which as a group you will need to work on, and you will get some time enough to work on them. You will get to then work on how to create the presentation, and what based on the topics given to you, you will also get an opportunity to create a business case or a use case or presentations that might actually help to bring out your thoughts and ideas, right? And then obviously you will be assessed based on how you are presenting, what is the content you are delivering, what is the overall understanding of the topic, etc. So hence, like, all these classes that, we have had, like, all the discussions around the topics, all the various videos and the industry experts which you saw in these videos are very, very critical. Because if you don't understand these concepts, then it will be difficult for you to then also come up with the right approach towards the presentation, right? So given a particular topic, because now, like, after a few theories, you will be actually asked to work on the real-time applications of some of these topics, etc., and actually present to the few of us. So hence it is important that if you have any questions, you can ask right now, so that, like, I can clarify. Because once the presentation starts, once you start working on the assignments, etc., then you will need all these insights and information to actually bring it out. Like, what would be the business case? What would be the cost implication? What is going to be the application of a particular? How would you market it? How will you include it in a part of the digital promotion? I think all these concepts and all these applications will come into the picture, right? So just wanted to hear your thoughts on anything or any questions that you may have, which I can clarify now. Okay, if there are no questions, then that's fine. Kionix team, Harinakshi, are you there, ma'am?
Sir, yeah, sir. Tell me.
Yeah, okay. So you have shared with me the details of all the batches and the students' names, etc., right? So I think there are all those groups created. So what I will do is I will come up with the question. I will come up with the case studies or the or whatever those each groups they need to kind of work on, right? And I'll share them with you. Once I share them with you, you can share them with the students further, right? For each one of the groups or whoever is mentoring those students groups, right? And then we can have presentations from the groups. Not necessarily all the groups will get a chance to present on the same day. We can divide, right? So that way it is also we know that today there is group 1 to group 5, tomorrow there is group 6 to group 7, so that everybody gets a chance and there is a impression, and we figure that out, right? As to which day, what not. Okay.
Okay.
Just wanted to let you know. I think our next class is going to be on coming Monday, right?
Yeah.
Yes. So coming month, so in the last 3 classes, and this is for all of the students and also yourself, Hidaksi, in the last 3 classes we have, including today, we have covered certain topics. We have seen how certain use cases from the industry through the videos and through the conversations, etc., that we have kind of understood, like the speakers coming and speaking as well, right? So this is supposed to give you an overall holistic idea in terms of what are the use cases, what are the technologies, where the industry moving, what is there in the world of digital, everything, right? Monday's class also I will share some of these interesting insights, right, from the world of digital marketing itself. It is going to be a class which is going to be more in terms of digital marketing and social media marketing, and I'm letting you know in advance so that you can also come prepared with questions or come prepared with thoughts, etc., right? Once we complete that, then we have completed 4 classes and we have enough information. In the meanwhile, I'll be sharing those case studies, etc., which then you as a team can work on. You will get some time to work on it because I don't want to kind of rush it. I want you to spend some good time, and then we'll start having those presentations and those interaction rounds. That's the plan. That's the plan.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sure, sir.
Okay, great. So if there isn't anything else today, then I think we can take an early break from the class, and then we'll see on each other on Monday, where we'll talk very specifically about certain topics around digital and social that will give you an overall understanding as to how to market things, how to promote things, etc. And then the following classes onwards, we will have those presentations shared by the students with us, which we can evaluate.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. So is there any questions at all from anybody? If not, then we will give it a break today.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. I think this is fine. There isn't any questions. So Harinakshi, we can call it a day today, right? And
Okay.
we'll catch up on Monday. In the meanwhile, I'll work on those case studies, etc. Questions.
Sure, sir.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.